Now, we have a question. Is Gozen Match good at the moment? I actually think it is. How's it going, Phoenix? So for those that don't know Gozen, it's a pretty easy card. It's another floodgate in the realm of like TCBOO, but it's a bit of an old one. Each player can only control one attribute of monster. Send all other face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So if you flip this on your opponent and they have multiple attributes of cards on the board, they get to choose which attribute they keep, and they send everything else away. So once they're down to controlling that attribute, they can't even attempt to summon any monster that would be of a varying attribute. Now, from the top, I think this is the best, if not second best, floodgate against Spiral, next to Rivalry, because they start with Magician's Soul, and they do that play. You flip Gozen on them. They can still get Master Plan out if they ditch Rescue, but now they can't go to Barricade Board Blocker. They are locked to Darks for the rest of the turn, which is awkward, because if we bring up the Spiral deck that I got from Michael State, once they've done that, so they go like Magician's Soul, they bring out Master Plan, they search Rescue, they now need to commit to a Link 2 play that is Dark, and you'll quickly realize that, oh, they've got, okay, Barricade Board Blocker is Dark. Okay, they can do that. But after that point, they're stuck. They need to get rid of Barricade Board Blocker, get it off the board, so that they can go to Earth, because Earth is the one that is Super Agent, tough, last resort, double helix, it's all Earth. If they lead with their Spiral monsters first, say something like Drone's Super Agent, Drones is Wind for some reason, and it's also a machine. So, and this is why I say it's next to the Rivalry of Warlords. I think Rivalry actually does a better job here, because they commit to their Spiral play with Drone's Super Agent. You flip Rivalry, it's hoping like hell that they miss the target with like Cold Super Agent. They're going to get it correct because they got drones on board. They summon the Super Agent to the board. Actually, I don't think they can, because if you flip Rivalry at that point, they can't commit to the summon. If they just go drones and you flip Rivalry, they can't even tap Super Agent, because it's a warrior and they're holding machines. If you flip Gozen, it's the same thing. They have a wind on board and they're trying to summon an earth. So it ends up in a similar situation. So Gozen cross Rivalry right now, I think, are the best two hand traps right now when it comes to stopping the best deck. It also works against me playing Mythical Endymion, because you also got to remember that I am actually multi-attributed. My best two cards are both Dark. However, my best way to get them out includes a Wind, a Light, and an Earth. Servant, the Light in Empress, and the Earth in Magister. On top of that, if I do like Jackal King, get Master Cerberus on board, now I'm restricted to Light with Gozen Match. Rivalry doesn't hurt me because I'm all spellcasters, but it does stop me from going into most of my extra decks. That's the thing. But Gozen against me can really shut me down, especially if I go to Cerberus. Sure, you've still got to deal with a 2,800 beat stick that if I can get spell counters onto, can one of your monsters and become really effing big, and also can't be targeted while there's more than 4 spell counters on the board. But that is a lot easier to deal with than double Master Endymion, double Jackal King, Master Cerberus, IP Masquerain. Hell of a lot easier. So, another one would be, and I don't actually have a deck list for Altergeist, but I'll bring up Altergeist if you want to play Gozen. A lot of people forget this. Altergeist right now, pardon me, they're all different attributes. So, Conqueror, Earth, Marionetta, Light. The new guy's Water. Multifaker is Dark. Circuitous is Wind. You don't use this one. Meliseek is Water. Activate Protocol. Fine. Multifaker effect. Fine. Special. Multifaker effect on board. Gozen Match. They are now locked to summoning Darks. Multifaker must summon another Dark from the deck. And they're definitely not going to be summoning this useless piece of crap that doesn't do anything. So in that situation, Gozen is good. I think the only time that Gozen isn't good in the current meta, if Simo's video is to be believed, is against Guru Control, because they're all Earth. But if you're flipping that against Guru Control, you should be siding it straight out. But against almost every other matchup, even Dinos, it has some use because they go into a multi-attributed play to get into VFD. Now they can't VFD. Like, their best play results in them just trying to get to ulti-conductor pass, or, trying to break your board with that. So, Gozen, surprisingly, right now, is actually a really, really good back row continuous trap, so long as it doesn't harm your deck. I've actually thought about running it in Endymion as a sideboard 2 of, for when I build my best board, which is all dark, because I believe IP Masquerade is also dark, yep. And my link up into, I just switch, instead of going into things like Dracomasters of the Tenyi, Apollosa, or Sayuja, I just simply go into a Borreload or a Boral Sword and just link 4 up to that point instead, and call that a day. And I can sit behind my Double Jackal King, Double Master, and Endymion, they're all dark, and watch you scramble. The best thing that I find about things like Gozen and Rivalry is that they can't be outed by Nightmare Phoenix or Nightmare Unicorn unless their deck is already Fiend, or Fire, or whatever Unicorn's attribute is, Dark. So if you flip Gozen and they're playing a multi-attributed deck and they don't get restricted to Darks, they're not going to Unicorn, and they're not going to Phoenix if they're playing, something weird like that. If you flip, Rivalry on them and they're not playing all Fiends, they're still not getting to the Nightmares because they're all Fiends. So you end up in that situation, whereas TCBOO can be played around as long as they can get something like a Spellcaster and a Machine, as I'm referring to Orcust here, they just link up into a Nightmare Phoenix, pop the back row, and then trigger Orcust Nightmare in the graveyard to continue their play like nothing happened. That, with Gozen and Rivalry, isn't so much the case. I'm actually looking forward to the day that we get reverse Gozen, where we end up with you can only control one of each attribute of monster. I'm waiting for that day because that will definitely make things weird. Because them suddenly playing multi-attribute, like something like Altergeist, will consider running both Rivalry and whatever that card is at the same time because they avoid both. They're all spellcasters and they're all different attributes. So suddenly, something like Altergeist gets a power boost from a continuous trap like that. But nah, to TLDR, Gozen, so long as it doesn't affect you, and you can play it pretty well, I actually think is probably the strongest, if not the second strongest, floodgate, not including Mystic Mine, currently in the format.